It's really early, and I'm headed to the train station to go to Dijon. It's not even light out yet, and I'm waiting for the taxi to get to La Gare, the train station. So wish me luck on this day. I still got too much stuff. I'm gonna have to weed out more, throw the possessions off the Conestoga wagon again before I leave Dijon. So see you later.
Mesdames et messieurs, bonjour. Je suis Fred, votre chef de bord, accompagné de Sébastien. Nous souhaitons la bienvenue à bord de ce TGV Nuit, numéro 2869, à destination de Bruxelles-Midi. Nous servirons les gares de Narbonne. Plaisir seront à votre disposition tout au long du voyage.
On démarre à 7h, on arrive à 14h. C'était 5, 12 plus après.
Hi, so this is EG surviving the harrowing travel adventure to get to Dijon today. I gotta tell you guys, I know I look rough. This looks really rough today, but this is as real as it gets. I only got about 4 hours of sleep last night, and the adventure started at, I was staying overnight in my last night in Perpignan at the Hotel Dali, which I highly recommend. A very sweet hotel. I really liked it. Not super expensive or anything. Anyway, I go down at 6 a.m. because I had a 7:04 train this morning. And I go down at 6 a.m. with my bags, and let me tell you, that's a whole other story. So now I have the two smaller bags, which are manageable. But then my backpack has turned into the new beast. It's the beast on my back now. So I still got to get rid of more stuff before I leave Dijon. I can't go through this quite the same way. I mean, not as much stuff as I got rid of this time, but navigating the two suitcases wasn't bad, but the backpack, too heavy. So anyway, I asked the guy, and I could have just called for an Uber, but I took a taxi one time when I was in Perpignan, and it was really inexpensive. It was only about €11 to get from the train station to where I was staying. So this was about the same distance from this hotel to the train station, so I figured I'll just have him call a taxi. Maybe Ubers, maybe there's not many Ubers out at 6 a.m. So he calls me a taxi, the taxi shows up. I get in, and normally I'm used to, they have almost like a set fare, like they already calculate it, like from where you're going to the place. Well, it must have been like a taxi version of surge pricing, because the rate was already at €15 when I got in the cab. And then it just kept going up all the way to the train station. So I had to pay about €25 for that, which was crazy. But you know what? I was kind of stuck. What are you going to do? So lesson learned. If you're going to get a taxi early in the morning in Perpignan, I don't know if it's true in other cities as well, but probably maybe go with an Uber instead of a taxi. So anyway, I get to the train station. Fortunately, I've been in that train station once before when I came into Perpignan. But it was all very confusing at like 6:30 in the morning, because they didn't have the track where the trains were leaving yet. They didn't announce it or anything. It wasn't up on the board. And so I was a little bit confused for a bit. Then finally I figured it out. But there was a mess. There was this huge queue. There was a huge swarm of like high school age students that were heading out of town, shall we say. So we were backed up just to have them scan our ticket code, which is on my phone. You just bring up the QR code. So that was confusing, because I didn't know that was going to be a thing. Normally it's, anyway. And they had elevators so I could get up to, because in Europe, you have to go down and then up and whatever at most train stations. Well, so I get out there, I get on the train. I'm laughing because I thought I got in the right car. The car had a 1 on it. My ticket said 1, and then my ticket said seat 52. So I get in the car. I had a first class ticket. It looked like it was a first class compartment. I go to 52. I sit down. There's not a lot of people at that segment. We picked up more people on the way to Lyon. And so I was good for the first hour. I'm just sitting there enjoying myself. Nobody's sitting across. I had a table. I mean, I had one of those seats that faces across to another seat, but nobody was over there. So it was great. And then all of a sudden somebody got on. A husband and wife got on, and they came and they're looking at me and they go, they're basically saying, this isn't your seat in French. And I got immediately flustered, and I pulled out my phone and showed them my ticket thing. And they said, well, you're not in the right car. And the husband, they weren't really nasty about it, but the husband did speak some English, and he did say to me, your car is 2 cars that way. And I said, well, this is confusing because this says it's car 1, and I'm supposed to be in car 1. So anyway, he directed me where to go, and I had to walk 2 cars up. This is while the train's in motion. I had to walk 2 cars up, and I did find my seat, which is probably the only empty seat in that whole first class. And I couldn't honestly tell the difference between that first class compartment and the compartment I'd been in. So anyway, I got my seat. A young woman was seated across from me. We just said bonjour, and that was it. And I just tried to relax the rest of the way. But I was tense because I knew the change of trains in Lyon was going to be challenging. I only had about 20 minutes to change trains, and I didn't really know. I've never been in Lyon before. I didn't know the train station. I actually went on the internet and tried to kind of find some information about it so I'd kind of know what to expect. Well, the information I found didn't help me at all. It was a confusing mess in Lyon. So I almost missed that train, the one from Lyon to Dijon. Well, in retrospect, I almost wish I had, because therein started one of the worst experiences. You know how I talked about that little train, the tourist train in Perpignan as being the torture train? Boy, and of course, technically it was a tram, but the point is, I was on a torture train today. Absolutely. So I finally get up to the platform where I'm supposed to be. I had to ask 6 employees at the Lyon train station, most of whom said, I don't speak English, because when you're trying to get something specific, I didn't know exactly what to ask for. I know, I speak, when I'm really upset, I speak Franglish. I can't speak purely in French, and I don't speak purely in English. So anyway, people were generally unhelpful until I found a young man who didn't speak English well, but he was very nice. And he directed me and said, it's platform A. And so, because the signs, that was supposed to be a train to Paris. It didn't have anything about Dijon on it. There was on the little boards they have up. So in case some of you are going to comment about that, I can know how to read the boards, okay, where they have the times and the departures and the gates or the tracks and all that. There was no Dijon anywhere. So I didn't know that the train to Dijon was actually a train to Paris. I had no idea. It didn't say that on my ticket. I had no idea that that's the deal. So I get up there, I'm thinking, oh gosh, I got the train. Now I was worried because while I had a first class ticket to Lyon, I only had a second class ticket to Dijon. They didn't have first class available because it's a different kind of train and it's just all one class. So I get on, I'm going up to the platform, I'm looking at the compartments, everything is full. And I'm not talking a little bit full. I'm talking the worst subway you've ever been on during rush hour full. And this is not a subway. This is a train that's going long distance. This isn't a half an hour subway ride. So I go to 2, 3 different cars and it's all the same thing. I can actually barely get on the car. So I finally get up to a car and I'm thinking, well, I'm just going to have to just go for it. And fortunately, a very nice young man who was right inside the door helped me lift one of my bags up on there. And a lady, I was the oldest person in sight at that point. And so a young woman who was sitting on like a jump seat, not even a real seat, like in the compartment. This is at the entrance of the compartment, like when you get on the train. There's like these little jump seats. She gives up a jump seat for me, which I really appreciated, and I thanked her. And I'm thinking, how bad can it be? Oh, it can be really bad, because we still were there for another probably 8 minutes, and you wouldn't believe how many people crammed themselves onto that train. They were crammed in the aisles of the actual place where there were seats. They were crammed in my area, which was by the doors, the outside doors. I've never seen that many people on an actual train. I mean, I've seen people like that on a subway. I've never seen people on a train like this. And the weird thing is, I'm guessing it's not uncommon at all, because the French people didn't seem even particularly worried about it. So I just kind of followed suit, and I thought, well, there's nothing I can do about it. I got to be on this train. So thank God I had a jump seat to sit on, which was incredibly uncomfortable, by the way. And my luggage was kind of stacked against the wall right next to me, because there was no place to put the luggage. The luggage racks were way full. Everything above people's seats in the compartments was way full. There was no other place to put luggage. And I just couldn't believe how many people, it was like some sort of dystopian, like, comedy of errors, that these people just kept coming on the train even though there was no room. So at the worst of it, I was crammed into this cubicle area with probably over 20 people, I'm guessing. I've never seen anything like it. So the train ride should have taken 2 hours to get to Dijon, which I knew was going to be the 2 longest hours of this whole trip, if not in the last, 10 years of my life. But it got worse, and I am not even joking. So we do a couple of, there's little pit stops along the way to Dijon. Of course, then the train was supposed to go on to Paris after that. So there's these little pit stops that don't really pick up many people, which thank God, because there was no room. And about, 30 minutes into the trip, the train stops and doesn't start again. It's just not working. And the conductor, or whoever it is, comes over the thing, and I could only piece together what was going on. I knew there was a problem with the engine or something. Something was not working properly, but I couldn't identify from his French exactly what it was. And he said that we were going to be delayed because they couldn't get something to work. Well, that went on for 30 to 40 minutes, at least. They did open the doors, so if you wanted to go out and get some fresh air, but I wasn't going to give up my seat. I figured if I left my seat, somebody was going to grab it. I mean, most people in the area I was at were standing. There was only one other person sitting on one of these jump seats, and I couldn't stand for like hours. So they made a couple of more announcements. They made another one saying, no, still not working, basically. Then they came on and said, we'll be leaving in about 5 minutes, basically. So I figured, okay, they've solved the problem, which I never really figured out exactly what the problem was, because there was still air coming through on the train. Thank God we weren't dying of like heat or something. And the lights were still on inside the carriages, so it's not like there wasn't any power. I really just don't know what it was. Well, they finally made an announcement we were going to be leaving in 5 minutes, and thank God we did. Well, then, and meanwhile, I'm messaging my Airbnb host because, she was going to meet me around, we thought the train was going to be on time. I'm already at least 45 minutes behind at this point. And I had to message her and tell her what had happened. And I said, I'm sorry. And she was really sweet. She offered to actually come and pick me up at the train station whenever I got there, because, if I'd gotten in there and then had to try to get a taxi or an Uber or whatever, and, whatever. So it was very sweet of her. But meanwhile, I'm on this train, and then we're making our way to Dijon. And fortunately, it got a little bit less crowded as people did get off at the stops. But there was still, even when the train stopped in Dijon, there was probably 10 people in that little cubicle. So, anyway, right before we got to Dijon, they did announce that, and I had to ask someone in my little cubicle exactly what they said because I couldn't understand all of it. But basically, they said they were still having problems with the train and that at Dijon, they were going to have to switch everyone to another train to go on to Paris because this one wasn't going to do it. So, that was interesting. So not only was I on the most crowded train I've ever been on. So I guess this is a particular type of train, like a kind of a commuter train, I guess I would call it, maybe. And maybe on commuter trains in the US they do that too, honestly. I've never really ridden commuter trains, so I can't speak to the fact that maybe that is what they do. So anyway, I got to tell you, I was so wiped out when I got here. I hadn't eaten. I had some, like little digestive biscuit things that I brought with me, and that was about it this morning. I didn't have breakfast really. I had water. I did have water with me. Fortunately, had gone to the restroom while I was on the train de Lyon because I don't even know where the restroom was on this thing. And you couldn't have fought your way through people to get to one. I think I look like hell, but I kind of wanted just to do it now while it's fresh in my mind. And because you know what? The thing that was so interesting about it, and I just took my cue from the French people around me. I didn't get upset outwardly. I didn't say anything. I didn't curse. I didn't look like I was mad. Inside, I was freaking out because I was thinking, what if we don't get to Dijon? Or what if Allison has a heart attack in this friggin' cubicle? I was thinking things like that, happy thoughts. And so we got to Dijon, and bless my wonderful host from Airbnb. She was waiting for me in the station, and she had told me she was going to wear a bright colored coat, so I recognized her. And she helped me get out, and she had brought her car. She parked in the train station parking lot, so she drove me over here, and we got, she showed me everything and gave me the keys and stuff like that. And so I just gotta say, I don't know what that was today, but that was weird. And what's weird? It's not weird. What's not weird is that I had a bad feeling about taking this trip. I thought, I know it's just because I thought it was just because I was nervous about handling the luggage. Actually, handling the luggage wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I still need to make my backpack lighter, which means I need to get rid of some things still out of my normal suitcases because I've got to put more of what's in the backpack in those because I just can't have that much weight on my back. It's a backpack, so it doesn't really hurt your back, but it's just hard to get on and off. So, yeah, that was the thing I thought was going to be a big problem was the luggage, but it was actually never even occurred to me I was going to get packed like a sardine into a train today. So now, I don't know if this is true. You guys can comment below. I don't know if this is normal on trains in all countries in Europe or whether this is a particularly a French regional thing, like these regional trains that go between cities within France that they're not high-speed trains and you don't get a reservation. You don't get a reserved seat. And I'm thinking that that's something to avoid in future if possible, because I think unless you're just going on a short little day trip or something somewhere and you just get on for an hour and whatever. But also the train breaking down. I thought the rail system in Europe was just so far superior to especially what we have in the US that it just never occurred to me that I was going to get involved in a situation where the train didn't work. All of a sudden, in the middle of a trip. So, anyway, I made it safely. I wanted to let you know that. And I am in Dijon. This place is a perfect location. Just perfect. I mean, it's much more easily walkable than I was in Perpignan. So, I may not even have to get a bus pass here because honestly, most of what I want to see is within walking distance easily. So, of course, Easter, I'm filming this the day before Easter. So Easter is tomorrow, and then they celebrate Easter Monday as a holiday in France. So I'm not going to be able to do much the next 2 days as far as, unless I feel, I don't know, I need to sleep right now, I can tell you that. But I don't know how I'm going to feel tomorrow. I may just have to rest tomorrow. You know, I just want to share one other thing about this. Like, I think my overall feeling and why I'm dreading the traveling between places, like, you know, once I'm settled in a place, I'm fine. I adjust to it. But I think I'm just too old for this. I think, honestly, I'm just too old for this travel stuff. This is a young person's game. It really is. I mean, I watched all these people on that train and they didn't even look flustered. I mean, they kind of shrugged and was like, yeah. And it just, but there were not old people on that train for the most part. I probably was one of the oldest people on that train. So I just think it's so much harder when you're older to travel like this. It really is. And I know some of you are going to say, well, you should just fly then between. Yeah, well, that's a whole other nightmare for me if you know that I don't like flying. So that's just another level of horror, basically. Plus, you still have to deal with all the stuff at the airports, and, you know, there's still annoyances. So I just think from now on, now I know that my next ticket booked out of Dijon to go to Munich by way of Zurich. 2 legs of that are going to be fine. There's 1 leg of that that's, again, no reserved seat, and I'm a little worried about it because now I know that I can't get tickets where I don't get a reserved seat. I mean, that's just crazy. It's crazy. That's all I can say. It's just... So that's my adventure or misadventure. And I survived. Hopefully I'll still be around to talk to you on the next live stream. Unless I have a delayed heart attack over this. It was really bad. I mean, I was hungry. I was, the moment when I first, you know what the worst moment was? When I first walked onto that train carriage, when it was so full, and I thought, I can't. I don't even know how to deal with this. And fortunately, that young woman gave up the jump seat for me, because if she hadn't done that, I don't know what I would have done. There's no way I could have stood all the way. I mean, we ended up, what was supposed to be a 2-hour trip turned into a 3-hour trip. There's no way I could have stood the whole time. So, again, the kindness of strangers, you know. Let me just say, that young woman and actually her boyfriend, he spoke some English to me. They were both really kind to me. Almost everyone else in that train didn't even speak to me, honestly. So, okay. But I mean, I didn't feel comfortable speaking to them because it seemed like my feeling was that most people did not really speak much English. So, but then a lady at the Lyon train station really helped me out. And then that employee at the train station really helped me out. So there were some kindnesses from strangers. Nobody other than the guy helping put my bag on the train at, you know, literally the torture train. When he did that, that was the only time somebody offered to help me with a bag, other than when my host came and picked me up. So, everybody said, oh, they'll offer to help you. Like, no, didn't really get that. Maybe it's different in different countries. I don't know. I hope so. I don't know. I can't keep doing this kind of thing. It's really just a good thing I'm here for a month, because I guess I'll be ready for my next torture by then. And maybe it won't be torture. I mean, the one thing that'll be good about traveling in the UK on the train is that I don't have to worry about the language problem. I'll be able to understand the conductor or the engineer if the train, you know, goes out of commission. I'll be able to understand that. And and I'll be able to ask other passengers about, things. So, yeah, it's a challenge when you're in another country and you're not fluent in the language, even if you speak some of it, if you're not fluent and you're out of your element and you're old and things hit you physically a lot harder than it would if you were younger, it's a real wake-up call. It really is a real wake-up call. Maybe it would be different if I had somebody to travel with me, there's travel channels where people are older, but a lot of times it's like a husband and wife and they're traveling. And you've got somebody to help you and somebody to commiserate with and somebody to kind of, be your backup when you do that. When you're in the situation I'm in, you don't have that. So it's hard. It's really hard. Anyway, I'll be sharing with you lots of stuff from Dijon the next few weeks, and be kind always, especially to strangers on a crowded torture train where people are crammed in like sardines. And keep moving forward. Take care, guys. Bye.